This is the heartbeat of human services, a peek into the inspiring stories of our community and all things DHS. Join us.
Hi, everybody. I'm Janice Slagle, the host of the Department of Human Services podcast called The Heartbeat of Human Services. And June is Family Reunification Month. And so our guest today is the Honorable Judge Susan Gill. Welcome.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. We're so happy to have you. And I know your time is limited, so we do appreciate it. And you and I were just chatting a little bit about Family Reunification Month and why it's important. I think I was recalling that Judge Vega started this a few years back.
That's my recollection as well. I remember seeing photographs that he had posted of some families that had reunified successfully. And there's one of a dad who just looks so happy hugging his little
don't you love
boy.
That?
Yeah.
I think when he brought it to our attention, when Judge Vega did, I recall that we do celebrate families that adopt, which is awesome. But even more maybe important, it's to celebrate families who did reunify with their children, right? Wouldn't you say?
Oh, I agree. We have a bulletin board outside the courtroom that has photographs of families who've reunified successfully and had their cases dismissed. And a friend of mine came by not too long ago, and she used to be a social worker. And she said, "Oh, are these people who've adopted children?" And I said, "No, these are people who've successfully reunified with their own children." So it was kind of a game changer in terms of what we celebrate.
Yeah, I think that's a sort of a mental shift, and it's an important one. And I love that you were telling me that you ask permission of those families before you put their pictures up. But even when there are people maybe coming in your courtroom and seeing those pictures, it may give them hope.
And that's the whole idea. So my hope is that this inspires people who are going through the process to know that they can do this. They can they can reunify successfully. And in fact, I brought a picture of one of our recent families that reunified. And as I was standing next to this mother taking the photograph, I said to her, it's our hope that this provides inspiration for people going through the process. And she said it did for me.
Oh, I'm glad. Because it can be a scary thing for families to interact with not only the court, but with a government agency. And there is a little bit of fear, quite a bit of fear when they first connect with us. And I understand that.
I do too. And I think sometimes they feel like the whole system is against them. Not that that's a rational thought, but they feel that way, and that there's no way they'll ever get their children back. And this is living proof. Oh no, all these people have gotten their children back successfully.
I love that. And I think it's important to keep putting that out there for people to realize the reason that children are removed is because there is a concern of them being harmed or a threat of them going to be harmed. But it is a scary feeling to think that someone has the authority to do that. And so I think it's important to remind people the reason we do that is we want to help them. We want them to learn healthy ways to take care of their children, right?
Right. The whole goal of the system is to keep children safe.
Yes.
And if we can keep them safe in their home with their parents there, that's wonderful. And we do that. We don't remove everyone we're concerned about.
Absolutely.
But when we really have concerns that they will not be safe in their home, we remove them, but immediately start providing services to the parents to reunify. So even before a petition is sustained or found true, the parents already have a voluntary case plan, and they are already referred to services and provided reasonable services by the department. So there are efforts immediately to try and reunify them.
And I've seen some efforts recently where things that were barriers before, like the cost of parenting classes or the cost of domestic violence classes, now there are sources for those to be paid for people that previously were barriers, right?
That's correct. Not only are there new sources, but there have been sources in place for a while. So if somebody was on cash aid, they might qualify for AB 429 services that would provide the cost of the counseling. And there are free programs in the county, free to the people. They are paid for by the agency or other funding, but lots of free programs.
So it really is our heart to help people to have all the resources they need in order to become healthy and whole and keep their families together. And that's really the purpose, right?
It is the purpose. And it's important because children want to be with their parents. I listened to a training yesterday on the the trauma of removing kids in the first place. And even if it's necessary, there is trauma inherent in that. And there was this adult woman who has obviously done a lot of work and was very impressive. And she said, if she had it to do over again, she thinks she might have chosen to stay in her family of origin because that was a risk she knew, as opposed to a risk she didn't know. But our whole purpose is to keep them safe. And if we have to take them out of the home to do that, we do that.
Yeah. I get the idea that it's a risk versus a risk you don't. We did interview a gentleman who was a father, which often we don't always deal with fathers. A lot of times it's moms. But he did tell us how grateful he was that we did step into his life, because he would have continued being an addict. And he was really honest about it. And there are some families who thank us once they're finished. And I'm sure you too.
I've had a number of parents say, thank you so much. We are so much healthier now than we were before. We are better parents now than we were before. And it's heartwarming to see that. It validates everything I do and everything that is done for these people by the department. I mean, I do very little. I just sit in court and, make orders and congratulate people when they are successful. I don't do the hard work.
But you do, as we were talking, you do put in your homework so that you are aware of what's going on with people and the needs they have. And so you, as a judge, that's kind of why I wanted to have you on here, is that you are very hands-on and you do seem to care about the people that you're, overseeing.
Oh, I do. I definitely do. Too much sometimes. I was thinking as I was coming over here today that I had a little girl tell me in December that all she wanted for Christmas was to be home with her dad. And the report was written in such a way that I knew coming up to the end of the report, this is what's going to be the recommendation. And it was. And so I told her, your Christmas wish is being granted. Aww. And I almost started crying, like I'm almost starting to cry right now. And she was just very calm and said, well, thank you. But you do invest in these children and these families, and you want them to succeed. And it's so disappointing if they don't, but it's so gratifying if they do.
That's a beautiful story. I love that. So why have you just become more invested, I guess, in family reunification? You've come to several events that we've had to celebrate families. You do things in court to encourage them, like the pictures. What is that about?
Oh, goodness. I've been involved in this line of work since 1985. So as a lawyer, obviously, and representing kids in dependency. And then I went into the county council and represented your agency for a number of years. Oh, yeah. And coming to juvenile court as a judge has always been my fondest hope. So this is a dream come true for me. And being out there and seeing the children light up when they get to go home, and seeing the changes the parents make and the positive changes in their lives. It's not just their positive parenting ability, but it's that their lives have a better quality. And how can you not be a fan of that?
Really, it's seeing society change one family at a time, right?
True. You know the starfish story.
Yes, I love the starfish story. You can tell it, though.
Well, it's my favorite story in the whole world. And it's what we do.
It is.
So there's the little boy on the beach, and there's all these starfish that have washed up on the beach, and he's throwing them back into the water. And a man comes up and says, what are you doing? You can't save them all. I can't tell it without crying. Mm-hmm. He throws another one in, and he says, well, I saved that one.
I love that.
That's what we do.
It is.
One starfish at a time.
Yeah. And you think of the ripples that may have, the ripple effects.
It's huge. The other thing that we all have to remember is that the parents didn't start from the same place we started as parents. They have their own childhood trauma, and they have their own challenges. They may be mental health challenges. They may be intellectual challenges. They may be just the trauma of a scary childhood challenges. So it's important that we remember that when we're working with them and when we're seeing change be slow, that we understand that they have a lot to overcome. And when they do, it's so exciting.
It sure is. I remember when I was a social worker, when I would investigate and go into homes, I remember thinking to myself, But for the grace of God, that could be me. So I think having that perspective like you do is really important in the way that we treat people, because we all come from different places, but the ultimate goal is for us to empower them to be all that they can be. And this is just the process that our government has set up, but we do see it working. So I think last year we had over 250 families that did reunify. I believe that were the numbers. So we hope that continues to go up with the resources and the things that we're doing. Some of the different programs like Parents as Teachers. That's another program I've heard about. I see your heart for the families, not only on National Adoption Day, but as you've worked with us in celebrating family reunification. And I think it's important for people to see judges as real people who have big hearts and want to see good things happen, because sometimes it's easy to see you up there with your robe on the podium differently. And so I appreciate that you are a person who cares.
I am definitely a real person who cares.
You are. And you're making me tear up too. So is there anything else that you would like to share just about why family reunification is important?
Well, just as you said, it's our society. It's our future. Raising healthy children means that our future is more assured than raising children who have so much trauma that they have their own challenges as parents. We break the cycle.
Yeah.
We make the children able to be good parents. We help the parents have good quality of life. We all benefit.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. So if anyone's listening out there and you have more questions about family reunification or anything about that process, you can go to kcdhs.org and search for Pathway to Reunification. And I thank you, Judge Gill, for being our guest today. It was very enlightening.
Well, thank you. It was a pleasure.
Welcome to today's Mindful Minute. I'm your co-host, Paola Hernandez, and today we'll be talking about wellness, and specifically wellness with families. It is so important to have a group behind you when you're starting your journey on fitness or whatever it may be, health. It's always important to bring your family into it. And the month of June, we are actually bringing awareness to bringing health to your family and fitness. So what a great way to segue into this with just some things that you could change on a day-to-day basis that you can do with your family. So some things I would recommend is maybe going on family walks or bike rides, weekend sports, home workouts, active chores, or adventure days where you plan an active outing like hiking or swimming. And set realistic goals for your family and celebrate your progress together. Let's seize the month to prioritize health and well-being together. We can build a healthier and happier community. This has been your Mindful Minute.
Thank you for joining us for the Heartbeat of Human Services podcast today. We hope you'll join us next time.